visionary fiction is all about transformation of consciousness.
And helps us reach and show what the eyes can't see, but the inner soul can comprehend.
It's a way to explore the lived experience of the spiritual life in a real way.
Allows people to step into the story.
And about our consciousness and awareness of what it is to be a human being.
Welcome one and all to the Visionary Fiction Author Interview Series with your host, me, Aaron Yeagle, sponsored by the Visionary Fiction Alliance, whose mission is to, among other things, help readers discover, explore, and enjoy visionary fiction, and be a place where readers can find visionary fiction books and engage in discussion with the authors. This week's interview is with the author of the 4-book series, Children of Stone, taking place in a time of the Old Kingdom Egypt, period of time when the pyramids were first being built. Shepherd Morai discovers a fallen star and becomes imbued with superhuman strength and powers. I'd like to introduce you to the author of that series, Mary Woldering. Welcome.
Hello. Nice to be here today. Thank you for having me, Aaron.
Cool. I'm glad to have you here, so we can all get to learn a little bit more about you and your books. So usually in the author interview series, we start off with the kind of standard visionary fiction question. What is visionary fiction?
Okay, well, visionary fiction, my concept of visionary fiction has evolved. At first, I thought it was about visions or works of prophecy, things like that. But as I have read more in that genre, I've discovered that for me, it takes the format of hero's journey, but rather than the hero going to a place and combating, say, a dragon or evil or something like that, his is internal, and they come away and learn something. I guess the example that another member gave was about Christmas Carol, because that would be Scrooge learns and grows. But so I thought that was the best. And I realized that I'd been writing visionary fiction most of my life. Although there were hero's journeys in my stories, the big thing was how people grew and either triumphed or were destroyed by their activities. Because in visionary fiction, you can also have things not work out well either. You can show the deterioration of a character. I had one where the hero started out well and died of exposure, basically dead drunk on the beach. So, but I never published that one. I just I tend to end those. I don't like the depressing endings, so I tend not to publish them.
Yeah, it wouldn't have done very well in 2020.
No.
Enough going on. So I find it interesting as I've read about your books and gotten into them a little bit, the amount of research you did. I mean, now tell us what was the inspiration for being Old Kingdom Egypt versus the ones that we know?
Well, I'm trying to make this brief because it's a little convoluted, and we don't have all day. Basically, I had started this out in the Mycenae area of Greece. Actually, I had started doing research on Atlantis because I'd been put on that project to tell me about, could I find Atlantis? And I have my own theories, which kind of are not what everybody else's are. But then the more I thought about characters that were in this, it was like a little muse or spirit or guide or something kept saying, go back further, go back further. it's in Egypt. And, go back where it started. It's in Egypt. And so I didn't know anything about Egypt. I really don't know anything about the gods per se, because I haven't studied it. Because, you said the amount of research, a lot of the research was up here, meditation, lucid dreaming.
Wow.
Time travel, if you would have it, like spirit time travel, or, there's all kinds of different theories. I used to think it was reincarnation. Now I'm not sure.
Mm.
It could be a number of things that let me see these places. And so I just started, a friend and I did this together. She's actually the one who inspired Anna. So we had written and drawn pictures of all sorts of things that we did when we did our regression studies. But this was just one of them. And so then after we parted company, I just kind of ran with it and started doing more and more personal research. I'm an art historian, but that's kind of one of those, do you want fries with it degrees unless you get a doctorate. I mean, it's great. You learn how to do research, but you can't make money with it. So unless you get the doctorate and are a professor somewhere.
Yeah.
But, so it did teach me research. Google is my friend. I didn't seriously start doing a lot of this until the age of the internet, because I had young children, and you can't just stick them somewhere and go to the library. So I have to praise technology, because if it hadn't been for technology, there would really have been no real research.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think I've probably run on enough on this question.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I really thought that it was deeply researched, and last episode, I interviewed Isis Charest, whose stories are also based in Egypt. More in you had mentioned something about different periods of Egypt as we know them. Yours is like the old kingdom, and then there was the Moses period and the Cleopatra period.
Right.
And hers is definitely in the Cleopatra period, because, the buildings are already half gone and, not taken care of, because, the pyramids been around for a long time.
Right.
So you hinted that there was a connection between the two of you, other than the fact that you both did books based in Egypt.
Did I? Okay.
Yeah, you said there was a story there.
About this. I think the story I was referring to was how I moved back to Egypt from my research, not necessarily that there was one with Isis. Now, I have read one. I actually have read book 2 of hers and liked it very much. Haven't had a chance to read the other 2 yet. But what I was doing was just a kind of a little bit different, because mine was, again, like I said, strictly visions and names. And I even can't. What changed was I picked up a lot of actual history as I was doing my book research, and found out it aligned with some of the things that I had visualized. And so I went, hey, why not? I'll stick those in there too. So I have the whole royalty thing going on in there. That I stuck, and it gets more and more important. And I'm using actual figures from history. Now, I don't know if I've picked up the truth about them. So far, none of their spirits have come and spoken to me about it, unless my first villain has decided to sabotage my sales. But
yeah, so in the 4-book series, Mirai gets imbued with superhuman abilities, and he decides to go to a bunch of priests to help protect the stones.
Right. Basically, they were artifacts from when the It's a time that's actually known in ancient Egyptian writing as the time when gods walked as men. You'll find that actually in, I mean, a lot of the people who have the concept, and I'm probably one of them, that we're a seed culture, you know, that off-world people or entities created humans, because there's such a big leap of humanity that suddenly is just there,
Right.
that it almost makes it possible, like, who did this to the higher apes that they should suddenly, you know, I mean,
Right.
It's in 2001 and several other things. And so I kind of went with that idea that perhaps these gods, which had, the Egyptians said, came from the sky, were in fact off-world. So I went with that idea. I kind of drifted away from your original question. So
Yeah. Well, so he takes the stones to priests for protection, but
right.
things don't go quite well.
Right. One of the priests believes that he should have been the one that received the enhancement, the high priest. And he's one of these hard luck guys who things have never gone his way. He's always, he feels like he was always bypassed. He was intended to be king. And there's actually reference to that in history, that there was somebody who was supposed to be king and was passed by. And so I just used that character.
Oh, okay.
He was first in line after his brother. He was skipped over, and another brother was chosen because the queens made the choice in those days.
Interesting. So is that Matkari Ramai?
No. That would be Horjatef.
Okay. And so Horjatef decides to, you know, so he goes to the priests, and Horjatef says, wait, these are mine?
Basically, he doesn't say that. He just said he agrees to lure Marai in and goes, you know, I'm just going to get him off of him. You know, bring them, I'll teach you, because his mission was to bring the stones to the priest for safekeeping. And there were things coded in his own stone that through learning meditation and going essentially through the priesthood schools that they had at the time, he would learn to access. So that was the other reason that he was going. So he doesn't really trust these guys, but they gradually get his trust. But then, of course, they betray him.
Right.
Because their interest is just getting those and getting all the artifacts. And I guess perhaps in turning themselves into God beings. This man just says, well, you know, this will make me an immortal king.
Right. So, and that's how Marai ends up, and so does Rajata. They end up as superhumans, and other
he does
people
not, because but I'm going to give that's a giveaway.
Okay.
But the conflict is between those two in the first book.
Yeah.
Now, some people, I do need to warn people, if you have trouble with cliffhangers, there is a heck of a cliffhanger at the end of book 1.
Okay.
And I've had people actually downgrade me with reviews going, I really love the book, but I can't give it it had a cliffhanger.
Right. Yeah. And I read that review.
And the thing is that I probably shouldn't have done that until I had the second book written, at least. But
so they wouldn't have to wait so long to
the two at the same time. But
they wouldn't have to wait so
silly
long.
Me.
So but, I also read that at least the first book, a review saying that it was pretty R-rated.
Yeah, it is. Well,
not a children's book.
It's not a children's book, and it says Children of Stone, and for some reason, people think people think it means it's for children. I'm going, Well, it's 450 pages. Knock yourself out, child. It's not. Some people think it's about Christ because there's a star on the new cover.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, well, that's actually an illustration from the first, from when when he sees the spaceship.
Yeah.
I had tried commercial covers before and had been completely unsatisfied with them. I'm not finding any stuff in pre-made. So my son, who is not a professional, was already doing my editing and formatting, because that he does in his regular day job is a lot of that stuff.
Oh.
And so he does that, and he said, well, let me take a crack at it. And I said, well, here's what I really wanted on the cover. And he had done book 4. That was his first. And he's going to redo that because the color is just too monochromatic. It's just fourth book needs to have sharper image in it. But I was happy with how he redid the first book. And I was extremely happy with how he did the second book, except people now think that's about Easter. You know,
because it has the
a broken tomb. And I'm going, and I told him that, and he said, that's not the same kind of tomb in Easter. You know, I'm going, there's no hope. Okay. You know.
So now you've been working on trying to come up with the conclusion to the series in a 5th book. And tell me a little bit about the challenge of trying to do that, to not let your readers down by doing a cheap shot or something.
Right. Well, I had the original ending I had was essentially everybody got killed except Mirai, and he goes back to being by himself. So it was kind of an envelope, but it was just really depressing, you know. So I went, I can't do that. And I passed that by a few people, and they said, no, don't do that. And it'll just make everybody mad. I went through 5 books and now everybody's dead except the main character. No, that's not going to work.
Right.
So outside that, I went, okay, now what can I do? And so I kept thinking about, what can I do? Can some of them die? Can some of them sacrifice themselves? Because he does develop a following of people who also have these powers. Including one of you asked about Matkari Ramkai.
Uh-huh.
He was actually an enemy, but by some finagling, he manages to get a girlfriend who is a host, and she makes him a host. Now they got a problem. So, but that's in the 3rd book, to where you've got an antagonist that's also one. And what do you do with that? You know.
Well, what about if in book 5 they all become united as one?
That's actually does, because they are fighting a larger entity.
Oh.
I find out the way I set that up was they were to also, in addition to getting the stones to the priest, they were to, there was one wayward, in effect, I guess there's no other term for it other than a Lucifer type figure, a fallen angel, or an alien that did not return with the others and essentially set himself up as God.
Mm.
And so this one has been essentially a dark force toying with all of them and adding drama to their lives, but he gets stronger with each book. And so that's another problem I have with book 5, because that one's going to be the most visionary. And so if people aren't into that kind of genre, they might be falling by the wayside. They're going to be going, what the heck is this? You know, and,
right.
you know, put the book down. So I'm hoping to kind of bring them along, but again, the book 4 was published in 2018, and the other 2 were revised in the interim to get more, I figured it was okay to do that because I just wasn't getting anybody that had read or reviewed all 4. I think I have 1 review on the 4th book.
Yeah.
So I'm thinking, okay, well, it's not going to matter because they're not going to be waiting for it. They haven't gotten through the others yet. So, that's why I decided I figured if I went through these again, that I could find some way that I could work it. And my son's actually helping me with that too. So I've made him basically a co-author for a lot of it.
To make it a little more accessible to a wider audience.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, and speaking of a wider audience, you recently published a book called, where is it? Anna's Dream of Flying.
Okay, I can show a picture if you'd like.
Sure. There's Anna's
Is there
Dream
too
of
much
Flying.
glare?
Yeah.
Too much
That's
glare?
nice.
Okay. Now
And,
that did have a commercial cover. So I was actually lucky on that one.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that basically this is an easy read. I mean, it's what did you say? 28 pages, 30 pages?
25 pages ebook. The little print book. I was at a book fair and I saw that the little print books and short story books, even in hardcover, sold for about $5 or $6. People would pick those up if they didn't know the author.
Yeah.
And also if it's 99 cents or $1.99, they'll pick it up in an ebook.
Right.
Because it's not that big of a financial risk. Whereas with a series, if they feel like they've, there's 4 books in the series here, I've got and I read print copies. This could be $100. I better know who the author is, So that was the marketing tool there.
Yeah. And Anna's Dream of Flying, even though it starts off in Tennessee in the 60s, is actually connected to Children of Stone.
Yes, it is, because in that, it's kind of a giveaway. The stories were based on my friend and I running around together, actually in 1970 through about 1974. We were both in college. We were both studying spiritualism, and she was my partner with the meditation and quote unquote time travel and stuff. So I used a lot of the stories from her. I'd say probably about 80% of it is things she told me happened to her. About having a mystical grandmother and her parents kind of being worried about that and having a dream friend and imaginary friends and stuff like that. So I wrote the little story about that because she, even at that age, had drawn pictures of things. Wow. And we even found out we had, even though I was in a different city, we both had Catholic grammar school education. We had the same nun that taught us in different states. And so that was so I used a lot of actual, and I used music from the 60s, stuff like that. But I had to be very, very careful because I was speaking in the voice that she and her parents would have spoken in those times, because, that can get you in a lot of, because this was pre-integration, pre-1964 was the original setting. So of course, neighborhoods were still separated and the way people felt were separated. But I've seen people get in trouble with that if they aren't very careful. So my son actually found somebody from high school that helped collaborate on that. So her name's in there too. African-American woman that he's kept contact with. And so he had her read that to make sure that I hadn't accidentally been offensive.
Oh, yeah. Good. So,
But you have to do that in these days because people are very sensitive about everything, really.
yeah. Well, it's such a how do I say it, a white American viewpoint.
Exactly.
We continue to find things that have been left out of the history books that would just curl our toes because we always think hey, we're great people, and then we find these things like the that
Like
one
Columbus,
town.
things like that. Well, I mean, that was one reason also that I did choose. In my Children of Stories series, I make several references to the fact that these Egyptians were not white or Arab, because that has been left out.
Yeah.
Because most people, when they think of Egypt, they think of the movie Cleopatra or the Ten Commandments.
Right.
And the concept is a bunch of white people running around doing stuff. So I wanted to make sure that that didn't happen in my books.
Yeah. Cool. So people can find you at maryrwoldering.com.
Right.
I'll put these links at the end of the video. We can also find you at the VFA Fans Facebook page and your Facebook page.
Yeah, my Facebook page is the one I'd recommend because my website is still, it needs to have some buy buttons put on it. And I got confused when I was looking at those directions. So on my Facebook page, I always refer people to the Amazon page where they can buy it.
Gotcha.
So I would prefer almost people go to my Facebook group page, which is Writings of Mary R. Woldering. But you have the same link that I sent you earlier about it. It's just, the link didn't change even when I changed the name of it.
Oh, interesting. All right. So I'll be certain to put those at the end of this video. So thank you very much, Mary, for sharing a bit of your life and your writing with us.
Okay.
And I encourage everyone to go and support Mary. Check out Anna's Dream of Flying.
Here's the first book.
Get the first book with the brand new cover, and Voices in Crystal. What are the other ones? Going Forth by Day, which I really love that title for some reason. Over Sky and Heart of the Lotus.
We had more time, but I won't do it now. I don't have a new cover. I don't have a new book.
No, that's okay.
I don't have a new print book. I didn't order those yet, or I would show you the new cover.
Yeah. So
Going Forth by Day.
Yeah, I'll be putting them in our video as well. So thank you all for joining us. Again, please support Mary by checking out her books. By all means, start at the beginning of the series, because by the time you're done, I bet she'll be finished with book 5.
Yep. It's scheduled for sometime late this year.
Oh, okay. Well, then you guys better hurry up.
My son is a very busy boy, so when he gets to format and edit it, that's when we'll have it.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Well, thank you very much, and thank you all for joining us. Bye, Mary.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Sure. Bye-bye.